Yeah, welcome everyone to our Blockchain Club Presidents Roundtable. So I guess for some of those of you joining that aren't familiar with BAF, we're a 501c3 nonprofit focused on accelerating blockchain education and development of the user-owned internet. I'm MacKay, partnerships manager at BAF, and let's see. So, wait. Oh, okay. Sorry about that, guys. I think my AirPods disconnected. Um, so tonight we're going to be discussing blockchain club leadership, building projects, and navigating the bear market. It's going to be generally an open conversation. We're going to kind of talk about what we did in our clubs for the semester, some of the projects that we're building, and some of our plans for the next semester, some of the struggles we're having as club leaders, and whatever else. And then towards the end, we're going to open it up to anybody else that wants to speak. So we're going to do a open Q&A. So I guess kind of start off with introing who we have tonight. I think we'll start off with Jake. Jake is the president of Texas Blockchain and also the founder of Spawn Global. Jake, it'd be great for you to talk a little bit about what you're doing and what you guys are working on.
Awesome. Thanks, MacKay. Like you said, I am the president of Texas Blockchain Club, and feel free to cut me off whenever I can ramble on. President of Texas Blockchain and founder of Spawn. Spawn is essentially a community of students interested in blockchain, interested in Web3. We are essentially like a program-based community. We have our studio, which is dev-focused. We have our fellowship, which is kind of like venture-focused, aimed at giving students kind of hands-on experience and practical experience in the Web3 space. Aside from that, a little bit about me. I am a sophomore at UT Austin right now, studying MIS. I am not very technical. I don't really have a desire to be technical, but got into blockchain about summer of 2020, really took off when I came to UT last year. My freshman year, got involved with the Texas Blockchain Club. Kind of got involved at a great time, started off as the marketing and then vice president and now president. And it's been a journey ever since. That's my condensed version. Thanks, MacKay. I'm excited for the conversation.
Awesome. Charlie, it'd be great to hear from you next.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for doing this, MacKay. It's very exciting. Yeah, so I'm Charlie, founder and president of Dartmouth Blockchain. We started the club last spring, just been building it up since. We're a project-focused club, so we have groups of about 5 projects right now, each with about 3 to 4 guys. We keep our club pretty small and pretty tight-knit, just because we're trying to create sort of like an incubator community. And I think we're working on some pretty cool stuff. Hopefully we can chat more about what clubs are working on later in the call and kind of see what you guys are doing at Texas Blockchain and other clubs too. So yeah, fun stuff.
Sweet. Yeah. Eva, it'd be great to hear from you next, and then Sriram.
Of course. Well, thank you very much for having me here. As I mentioned before, I am Eva. I am a student engagement lead from the Algorand Foundation. I am here to support BAF and all the clubs that you are belong. My role here is to develop and to encourage students to build the next generation of young professionals. I am very happy to be here to enjoy the conversation.
Awesome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, my name is Sriram Vishwanath. I'm a professor at the University of Texas. I've been a professor here for 19 and a half years. It's going to be 20 years next spring. I am an engineer by training. I'm a guy who used to work largely in statistics, machine learning, called information theory for a long time. And now in the past 5 years or so, I've shifted to blockchains and, can't get enough of blockchains and crypto. So excited to be here. I'm also the faculty mentor for Texas Blockchain and a mentor for BAF. So I'm looking forward to learning more about everything that everybody is doing and seeing how it can contribute.
Yeah, and I think maybe a great place to start off with is what we're kind of up to this semester as blockchain clubs, because a lot has been happening. We're kind of coming off from this really crazy bull market and all of a sudden a bunch of crazy things happened. FTX happened. Here we are in a bear market, and I know for me as a club leader, like a lot of the engagement has just really dropped off, within our student groups. So I think maybe talking about like how we're keeping that engagement going, and what we can do to kind of like continue on through the bear market and really keep students engaged.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that first. I saw firsthand when I joined Texas Blockchain a little more than a year ago. This was exactly when the time when like the NFT bull market was and like the GameFi bull market was. And there were probably around 60 or 70 people showing up to these meetings, kind of just asking what NFTs were and what is Bitcoin and how to make money. And it was really just heavy attendance at every meeting. You can kind of tell that the majority of people there were just kind of there to put it on their resume. And that's what I think mainly changed starting this year, where we didn't have 60 or 70 people showing up to meetings. But when we had our engineering and finance meetings, maybe we had 10 to 20 people showing up. But these were people that were showing up every week and engaging in all the meetings. We had our socials, we had 30 to 40 people showing up. And I think the most exciting part about that to me was that I think that the people that are building right now, like when I went to the engineering classes and there was sitting there learning and sitting there building, I think these are the people that are truly going to be leading the space in 5, 10, 15 years, not the people that are necessarily there just trying to hop in and ride the current trend upwards on these cryptocurrencies. So that's my take on like what I saw throughout the clubs and the way that we're kind of going about the decrease in interest is involving the members as much as possible, doing more projects, doing more like hands-on activities. We're looking to start up like a trading arm of like an investment arm of Texas Blockchain. Next semester will be purely focused on executive-led projects where instead of putting the accountability on the members to actually do to complete their projects, the accountability is now on the execs. So they're kind of like the leader of their team. And socials has been huge for us to really draw attention. So I guess just to wrap that up, like exec-led projects, being consistent with the members, and socials have been huge for us.
Yeah, I really like how you kind of captured like the fact that this is a really good time to build, and it's a really good time to communicate like what this space can be in the next 10 years, and the fact that blockchain clubs are kind of a incubator for the next generation of builders and leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to tag along right with what Jake said, I think the build culture is just so huge compared to kind of like you were saying, Jake, with like the speculation culture of clubs that are just sort of people coming in to kind of bet on NFTs or bet on whatever. No hate on that, but I think obviously in a time like this, it's not totally conducive to sustaining long term. So I think that's something like our club is really just trying to focus on is finding people who are really interested in building in the space as opposed to just making a quick buck on a rising price curve. So yeah, I think that's huge. And we've just been trying to go really project heavy in that sense, as opposed to kind of we've done some events, but been more focused on internal stuff. Just kind of keep the group tight knit and keep guys locked in. So yeah, that's been really our focus and our hope for kind of building in the future.
And sorry, I don't want to hog the conversation. We keep saying builders and devs and stuff like that, but there's also a huge opportunity for people that don't know how to code. We just ended our semester with kind of a finance day where students were able to just pitch whatever project they want. And I think we had probably 8 or 9 pitches. We also did a demo day right after that of any actual builders in our club. So there's definitely opportunities for people that aren't technical as well. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, 100%.
Yeah, certainly. Like, some schools are kind of tech focused. Others are like super engineering focused, maybe, or super finance focused. So, I feel like it's good to cater to a diverse group of students, but also to have a focus as well. I guess like at Dartmouth, Charlie, what is you guys' focus, and what are you finding works the best?
Yeah, so I think we're finding that these projects of 3 to 4 people per project is working really well. And these projects aren't all software based. I think out of the 5 this term, 2 were software based. and then another group was doing a fund. Another group was doing just a research team, so a full research team in collaboration with a couple of protocols on risk vectors and DeFi. And then a third project was a podcast. So we kind of launched our Dartmouth blockchain podcast with a few guys and focusing on kind of Dartmouth alums working in crypto, kind of trying to connect that network because I don't know, something we found is that Dartmouth is known as like a great school for alumni connections postgraduate. But really in the crypto space, there is just not that channel yet. And so we kind of found that hopefully we can be that channel. This podcast can sort of serve as a gateway to that in a sense. So yeah, I think that niche of sort of these small projects that are kind of continuing throughout the year, but keep the group tight knit and keep guys kind of focusing on, deliverables on a weekly and a termly basis is really great. So yeah.
Interesting. I'd like to kind of contrast that with like how you guys are doing things at Texas Blockchain, Jake. Because I know like I think your club actually spans across multiple UT universities, right? So I imagine there's a different method of going about starting projects.
For sure, yeah. So we have expanded Texas Blockchain as a chapter to Texas A&M, and we're looking to do some other schools. We're in works with that right now. And to be completely honest, this is the first semester, or this upcoming semester will be the first semester where we go full project focused. We found that, well, for context, previous semesters were really just educational focused, where we had an engineering 101, where we had our engineering team kind of just lead these lectures. We had our finance 101, where we had our finance team lead these lectures. And then we had our Web3 101, where it was like intro to NFTs, intro to Bitcoin, intro to like a broad layer of topics. And this will be the first semester where we are leading projects with our community. So I was actually going to ask Charlie a little more about how he went about it, because our main thought right now is just have execs lead the projects, and they're accountable for making sure the projects get done. So if a student doesn't show up, then it doesn't hinder the progress of the project. It's still up to the blockchain club exec. And I mean, I'd love to hear other people's opinions on this. Like we've been struggling with what to do with keeping members accountable when it comes to like attendance, because interest goes up and down in these kind of clubs. We don't have the stability of these regular finance clubs who have 100, 150 plus members showing up to their team. So accountability with the members is something we've really been struggling with, and hopefully these kind of projects can stabilize that.
Yeah, I find it's like a really interesting way to actually incentivize, student engagement, and finding people to actually get involved in projects. But, creating the right incentives and then like actually keeping people accountable can be tough, especially when, there's so much different things going on in a semester and, maybe some people are graduating or whatever. Yeah, Charlie, it'd be interesting to hear a bit more about that. Like, I guess like the process for successfully, ideating and then actually initiating on a project.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely still very much in that process, as we sort of just wrapped up our third term here, and yeah, definitely been. I mean, it's been quite the iteration from the start, but yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, Jake, we have it set up so each project has a project lead, and that person is responsible for every week. We have a weekly meeting. That person comes in and gives the update on the project, and then gives the next week's work on that project and one of the deliverables. And the work is nothing crazy. I mean, we all guys know that it's like max 10 hours a week, unless you want to do more. Obviously, like you can't do more. But and I think on the incentive part, that's another part that we have been kind of trying to figure out. And I think something that we're trying to do to keep that incentive is kind of treat this like an incubator. So it really is like there's skin in the game and there's cash on the line and really cool opportunities on the line, as opposed to just an academic exercise in a university club, which hopefully will prove to be pretty powerful and pretty incentivizing for most guys. It's proved pretty good so far, as all of our projects this term hit goals, and we should have we're expanding to more people next term from our wait list, and should have a few more projects come then. So I think the system is hopefully working pretty well, and will continue to next term. But yeah, I think the accountability thing, like you said, is huge, and just kind of having each project with a project lead has been really big for us. And yeah, definitely something we're going to keep going with next term.
Yeah, maybe Sriram, you'd have some interesting insights on that. I know as an advisor to Texas Blockchain, but also somebody that runs, an incubator, um, kind of replicating this model within blockchain clubs, whether it's starting at a very small level, I think provides a ton of value.
Agreed. So, folks, I'm old enough to have lived through the Web 2 cycle in the mid to late 90s. And a very similar thing happened. People were doing, different random things, not necessarily very impactful, but they were just learning how to deal with the web. And then projects and ultimately companies came about that were able to weather the storm and really work through the Web 2 winter to become the Googles and Amazons of today. So I think that type of cycle is going to repeat itself this time through this winter, where there's going to be some really, really interesting companies coming about from innovation that happens during this winter. So anyway, so having said that, I agree. I think doing things that are project and something fundamentally cool, something well-grounded, is the right way to go for every club. I think doing so in an incubation mode is even better if you can make it an incubator. So have a club incubator is very good. I think finding the right way to structure it so that you can operate it from year to year, even when people graduate, keep continuity going, keep the learning going, is very beneficial. And ultimately, I think it's also good for you to think through what your niche might be. What is it that in your club that you can do, given your membership, that would be cool, that would make you stand out, make your members feel that they're contributing to something in terms of projects that gets them excited. And at the same time, hopefully you have that one project or two projects that really shine, that ultimately get funded and become entities of their own with time. So I think thinking incubation mode is very good. I also think thinking what you can do that would be, given your strengths, be differentiated is also very good.
Well, I totally agree with you, Siriam, about what you mentioned about find the proper structure for projects. For example, because of my position, I receive multiple questions and things regarding funding and grants for projects uh, from students and from people in general. And sometimes these first steps about a properly structured project, because the idea must be fantastic, should be amazing, you can find have the best idea or the best project or everything, but if you don't have the proper structure, if you don't have the proper lines to move forward, it's very difficult to find the right funding or the right accountable management for your projects. That is why I believe the student clubs, the incubators, the community are the right place to find the support and to structure your projects properly to find the progress that you are looking for, and then try to move forward and find the right persons to help you on your projects. That is why we are here, and we are supporting the student clubs and the young professionals, because they have ideas, they have the energy, they have everything, but they need to structure and to focus only in the project and to find the resources for that. The resources are another thing that is very difficult to find, but moving forward on it, it's easy to do it.
Yeah, and then I guess we have a whole nother aspect to look at, and that's actually navigating our individual universities that we're building in, and kind of dealing with the restrictions and making sure that we're getting the support we need. I know each school is different. Some schools have a very strong presence in blockchain, but others do not at all. And I think blockchain clubs have the ability to, create a very, very valuable community around blockchain, but also bring a ton of value to a university. But that can be hard to communicate. So, I'd be interested to see how you guys have kind of done that and actually communicated that those goals and those values?
Yeah, I'd say on the Dartmouth side, it's definitely still an ongoing battle. We're currently in the process of working on getting Dartmouth's first blockchain class set up. So we've been working closely with our advisor and then a couple other professors that he's connected us with, as well as some alumni who are also pushing for some blockchain-based classes at the school. So we should have something, I believe, in spring term or latest come fall of 2023. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for that, but it's definitely still a fringe space, even as mainstream as it seems to us. But I think, yeah, it's a battle worth fighting to kind of get that blockchain education in the school, because I think that would bolster clubs so much and bolster adoption even beyond that. So, yeah, it's something we're working on.
And that kind of process for you guys, was that like, reaching out to professors, reaching out to, key administration in the school, or was that more of building it from the student side and showing the school like what you guys can do?
I think it was really a combination of both. I mean, we got really lucky that just when we were forming the club with our initial group of about 10 people, a great alumnus came back and gave a talk on Bitcoin mining, and he had actually spoken with a professor in the engineering school about doing a class because this professor had some experience, and so he connected. Our group was at that talk, and so we went up and spoke with him after, and he connected us with that professor. And so I think kind of once we were talking to that professor, we were sort of able to kind of show the work we've done. So that's kind of where that second part came in. But yeah, it was that was great meeting him, but yeah, it was definitely a combination of both for sure.
Yeah, I think Sriram may have a take on this. I'll just talk about the education, like the actual curriculum in the school. Sriram, maybe after, if you want to chat about the process of actually working with the formal educational department. But I'm actually the TA for one of the undergraduate blockchain courses. As the president of the blockchain club, and I know a lot of other execs on the team, like we didn't know about some of these other blockchain courses that were offered on the undergraduate and graduate level. I think there's just like a huge misalignment or miscommunication between some of the parties, where we only knew about one undergraduate blockchain course, but apparently there were like 2 to 3, maybe even more other courses offered. I know that the one that ITA, it's me and Armel, the previous president of Texas Blockchain, for those who know. And it is very fundamental. We go through kind of like exactly what you would think. If you've seen like the MIT online on open courseware course, it's pretty similar to that. The history of money, to the introduction to Bitcoin and cryptography, and all the introductory stuff you can kind of imagine. It's a great course, though. I think we had about 70 people last semester, in the class, and I love teaching it, and there are dedicated students who show up every week and stay after class to learn more and ask questions. And I think it's a great start for now. With that, having that kind of education structured by the campus. Sriram, though, I'm curious to have your take on working with the school.
So working with any school is very hard, especially if you're a public school. If you're a private school, it might be a bit easier, but even then it's hard. So it's not the easiest thing to be able to convince a school to change the curriculum, add a class, fund the class. That's one of the hardest things. So folks, we have a couple of challenges. One is the university itself has inertia in doing something. The other thing is students by their nature are what's called a memoryless system. That means that what you did 4 years ago is completely reset, unless you build in some memory, right? So that's, again, a very tricky piece, because unless you have a way of maintaining continuity, the system will essentially reset in a few years. And so you have to find a way to do that in a sustainable way. And the university is not going to help you do that. So you have to find a way to do that yourselves. So with both of these in mind, my suggestion is that each time you have a officer change, you almost have a little session, a training module that says, hey, these are all the things that we have been doing, So you maintain that continuity. That's number one. And number two, to work with the university, find the least resistance path. It may not necessarily be faculty. It may be alumni who could come in and say, you really need to do this. Often is alumni. It's rarer for faculty to do something, even rarer for staff to do something. So it is better to have some additional support to be able to pull something off. And in my limited experience, now that I've been, working with multiple schools on this, the business programs tend to be a little easier, and then the engineering programs tend to be a little harder in getting things through. So if that is the case in your school, try to work with the business school first, and then try to orchestrate something in the engineering school. So play it one step at a time. If you try to do this entire thing at one go, it'll become a tougher task on you. So find what is the easiest thing. Maybe it's a 1-credit undergraduate seminar. Start with that, then try to introduce a graduate elective in business. That's often the easiest of all graduate programs. And then, and then extend that graduate elective to become an undergraduate elective, but do that slowly. So if you know how to choreograph it, then you could put together a curriculum and find a way to create some hysteresis, some memory in the system, so that each time this happens again, a bunch of people graduate, you're not restarting this process. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I really like what you said there about making sure that things are able to be continued on once people, leave the school or graduate, whatever. That's super important. It seems like a lot of the resources are there, a lot of things are in place, but they either get forgotten or left behind. So I think, building some sort of like wiki for your club, or building, this database for your club that can, live on beyond whoever's leading it at the certain, school year, is really important. So I guess to go back to one thing that I thought was interesting was the point made about, you know during the Web 2 times, right, in the 2000s. There were students building on things that were the next Facebook, or the next, big social app, etc. And now we're kind of in this similar scenario, but in Web 3, where these student clubs are coming together to build different things. But there are some different dynamics, and it's probably not going to go down the same way that it did, um, you know 15, 20, 30 years ago. um, I think now we actually have this opportunity to work together as clubs. Maybe individual universities will lead certain innovations, but we actually have the opportunity to really like work together on a global scale. And I think it'd be interesting to explore that a bit.
There's one more thing I need to say, because it happened, and I realized this is something that we should keep in mind. Building out one of these programs is a multi-year task, especially on the education side. If you want to build out a full curriculum, it's impossible to do everything within one semester. It'll take you maybe a year, maybe two, but it's also fairly easy to have the entire thing go south. So if one of your programs is not well orchestrated, the university can come and try to cut the whole program. So you lose everything at one shot. So watch out for that. Build it up slowly, orchestrate it well, and then sustain it well. In that way, you can actually work through much of the red tape in a more coordinated manner. If your club is well coordinated and has good understanding of what worked and what did not in the past, you can build a fairly sustainable curriculum on the education side and build a good incubation program all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a super good point. This is not a 3-month endeavor. This is at least 2 years of one's kind of 4-year university experience, and hopefully, the school might allow you to be an advisor after or whatever. That I see that, happen a lot. Um, but I guess kind of like back to this theme around building projects in bear markets. Um, and I think there's a lot of opportunities out there in terms of building on different platforms and protocols. Eva, I'd love to hear from you on that. Kind of garnering support from the ecosystem as a club to successfully build projects, or or anyone else that has any thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean, so Texas Blockchain hosted a hackathon this previous semester, and it really it comes down to being super individualized with a lot of these sponsors, finding out exactly what they need and what stage they're at. Some companies are purely looking for the brand awareness. They just want to slap their logo in front of some different student initiatives, which is great because it ends up helping the student initiatives. Other companies are like purely only looking for students to use their technology. Others are looking to build on their on top of their technology. I think it comes down to just understanding what they need and tailoring offers to them. I think UT was definitely in a unique situation, mostly thanks to Sriram helping us out with many of these connections. But just given the fact that we were also a bigger school with a pretty large developer ecosystem in a large city where Web3 was a big boom last year, so that definitely helped a ton. But also on just on a different topic, on Spawn's fronts, with our studio it's a 12-week program for 20 students to just build. It's not like an educational thing, and we partnered with a couple of different ecosystems for this over the next year or so, and it really, like I said, it comes down to tailoring your offer to them, understanding where they are and how you can be of help to them. At the end of the day, these larger ecosystems are the ones with the say, with the power, and tailoring your offering to them has been a huge help to us for both Texas Blockchain and Spawn.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different opportunities to like what someone can do as a club, and really like I think it's important to note like you want to align with what your student body is focused on, and kind of align with the dynamics of your current team. Because I know like certain clubs, we as a club have tried to like go to a hackathon and participate in a hackathon. It's like we're not really a CS focused school. We probably would have been better off focusing on like doing something in DeFi. So like just like very important to either properly steer the direction of your club and actually recruit the student body for that, or stay very concentrated and focused on what your club is best at.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma. As a technology club, we always thought like we don't need to do tabling on campus. We don't need to like be doing any of this in-person merch. Like if people are interested in Web3, they probably have Twitter, they probably have Discord, they'll be doing this stuff. And to that point, we stayed a little bit away from like the in-person tabling and stuff. Maybe that's hurt us a bit. Curious to hear, Charlie, how you guys go about that recruiting scene too.
Yeah, so we have a big sort of club fair every fall before the first day of classes. So we did we had a booth there and did a little outreach, got a list of people, and then did sort of an initial event kind of to explain what we do as a club, and from there kind of filtered on further. And then we did sort of an application process for our core, and then through that application just kind of did rounds of meetings, and sort of there were a few criteria that people had to hit to kind of getting substance to our core. But then we also created an initiative called the community, because we saw we had a fair amount of interest, but a decent amount of people who maybe didn't know if they really wanted to fully commit, or maybe they just kind of wanted to come to a few events, but they weren't sure if they wanted to do a full project. So we kind of created this community. So we have our core, which is kind of the regular club, and everyone who's kind of applied and is working on projects. And then our community, which is open up to anybody. Anybody can join our Discord in that community and kind of be part of the conversation and come to all events. So yeah, that was sort of our two-part recruiting this term. And I think next term we might do a little bit more. We have a decent kind of wait list right now, luckily built up from that first recruiting push. So we might do a little bit more off of that. But yeah, really just kind of trying to dive into our current projects and see what sort of people are out there who could add value and really want to kind of commit in the spare season, because obviously it's a good testing time, good time to weed out the people who are really committed.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there. I think it's really important to, whether it's a club leader or as a team, is to digress between a core team and a community. And I don't think a lot of clubs really properly distinguish the difference between those two and communicate that to people that are interested. It's certainly a mistake that, we made in our club early on, was maybe overwhelming our new members a lot because we were kind of viewing everybody as like a potential core member, where it's a lot more important to communicate, like, look, this level that you could get involved in, but we'd love to invite you to get involved at this level, but there's going to be some different steps and a lot of responsibility involved. I guess it would be nice to go deeper into that. Like, what are some of the criteria you guys are using for, I guess, interviewing, in a sense, these potential core members?
Oh yeah, Jake.
I would say just doing things. I got involved in the club as the first head of marketing. There was no marketing team before I joined, and I just joined. I started it up with the Twitter. I didn't start it up, but I took over the Twitter, took over Discord, took over all the socials. Helped run a hackathon last February. I think that was the main reason that I kind of just worked my way up in the club, just doing things, just being an executioner. That's what I'm seeing more and more with the people coming into the club as well. The people who are just coming to us with an idea for an initiative, and less so waiting for approval and more so just getting things done. I think that's the main thing from my end.
Well, I totally agree with you regarding about what you mentioned is very special, Jake. Is about the passion. For example, you mentioned like few seconds before, about like there were no marketing in your club and you take the lead. That is what I truly care when I talk with a student who wants to build a club or wants to make it bigger or find resources or ask for something to the foundation. So then I asked like, hey, what are you going to do with this? Do you have any idea to manage these resources, financial, technical, non-technical, whatever? And sometimes they are like, yes, I know how to do it. And they explain me how to do it. And I say like, hey, this guy is convinced. They have the conviction. Let's give them the chance. And what you mentioned is what all the successful clubs are driving in, like to have passionate core members, to have the vision, and to know that after the graduation, the club will still there with their guidance, with their help, with the resources. So that is what makes a club very, very big and very useful for the students to have the passion to drive it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's also like super important as a leader to act a part. Not everybody might be the most introverted or extroverted leader, but to really like kind of get into that startup mode and really like, show your passion as a leader is super important. Charlie, I know you're trying to speak a little bit more on that earlier.
Yeah, no, I'd say just kind of echo both of what Eva and Jake were saying. Like it's for us, it's really about commitment over skill level. I think we have all of our schools have a fairly amount of talented people in the space, people who could add value, just because anyone can. And so I think really it's about what our club is looking for is like who can really kind of commit, put in the time, and really have the passion to keep going, even in a bear market like this. Over just like kind of credential basis. So yeah, I think that's really what it boils down to for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess I think, as we've kind of discussed some of these different things, it would be good to go a little bit deeper on collaborating with other clubs. Cross club collaboration, I think, could unlock a lot of value. But I think it's often overlooked. And also with that, like I know we have other club leaders here and club members here, so raise your hand if you want to talk. It would be great to open up the conversation a little bit more as we get to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I have to take this opportunity to shill a little bit with Spawn. I mean, that's one of the main things we're trying to do at Spawn is foster that interschool collaboration. That is the basis of our studio. It's the basis of our fellowship. It's really the basis of all of our events and everything we do. With the studio, the students are paired in groups. Then they're partnered with a mentor from our partnering company. The fellowship is the same thing. It's focused on research and venture pitching. Students are paired in groups and they work in groups to complete the projects. At the events, I think I saw Sahir. Yeah, Sahir is in here, the president of the BU Blockchain Club. We hosted a great event with BU Blockchain, BU Entrepreneurship, and the Boston Blockchain Association about a month ago. And I think we had like 7 or 8 different schools there from around. Oh, MacKay, apologies. MacKay was there. We had attendees from about 7 or 8 different schools, and it was really a great turnout. So that's on the Spawn front. On the Texas blockchain front, something that we're looking forward to is just expanding to different UTs. I believe UPenn hosted like a trading competition with the old FTX. No shade on like UPenn there. Just I think that was a great initiative that they started. And doing these kind of different, whether it be trading competitions, if I had the answer to that, that's like the $1 million answer. But trying to figure out these different initiatives to host between schools and the actual blockchain clubs, or rather through Spawn, I think is a big problem to solve.
Yeah, and I think like the idea of a trading competition is perfect, especially if you can kind of create some healthy competition in between.
Exactly,
like
fun things that's not like super tedious or boring to do for these students. Like trading is fun. Speculating.
The competition already exists, so we can work together. So here, I noticed you got added as a speaker. It'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah. Hey guys. So my name is Sahir. I am one of the co-founders and president of BU Blockchain. And so like Jake said, we had this great event this year where Spawn, the Boston Blockchain Association, and BU Blockchain hosted a great networking and panel event. And I think the biggest thing about the blockchain community, especially because we're all young, is that we're so driven. And so, it doesn't have to be that you have to have in-person events or such. It's also like you could meet virtually. You could combine, promote competition is great because it leads you to create innovation strategies. But I think it's more about, honestly, networking is a huge thing in my opinion because you might feel limited by the people in your vicinity. And so if you're able to meet people from other schools or other areas, that could potentially lead you to, make a group that could be interested in the same idea. And so I feel like being active on Twitter, being active on Discord, and being in the right community and areas will really help you as an individual, but also help schools grow as well. And I also want to touch on working internally in your school because I think it's really important that you collaborate with pre-existing organizations. There's already like a fintech club probably and stuff like that. And so using those people as springboards, because in those big clubs they'll have people who are interested in crypto and blockchain and so forth, and so like that's a great place to go and grow individually as a club.
Yeah, that's super valuable insight too. I think getting involved in communications that, like, whether somebody has a Discord or a Telegram, but also like as a club, just making sure that you're being open with that. Because I know, like, in my own experience as a club leader, we had kept a lot of things private, like our Discord, any of our chat groups, and that was a huge mistake. Especially like being a Boston area club where there's so many other universities close by. It's just always better to not see yourself as a competitor even to other clubs, which is something that does exist, but to actually find different ways to work together and just chat, just get in other people's Discords or whatever, share your ideas, share your projects.
I think like one thing I should talk about is like about growing your club in general. I don't know if I can change the topic here, but for those who are interested, like it's really important to understand your position in your community. Like for BU blockchain, it's been really difficult because it's been hard to grow and it's been hard to gain people. And a big part of what we talked about earlier was about when the bear market started, people kind of left because they didn't see the value in it anymore. And the people who really stayed are the people who see that there's actual real world application for this technology and this use. And I think it's really important to be able to figure out what people who are committed to your club really need and want. It's really easy as a president or as a new member, as a new club, to like really try and aim for the stars, but you have to first take your baby steps before you can reach the next part. And so don't be afraid to like send out feedback forms or talk to people who come regularly, because ultimately you want to it's your blockchain is like an intense topic. And if you have a busy week as a student and you have to choose between going to a relaxed club and a club that's focusing on technology, it can be difficult unless you're really passionate about that technology to go to a blockchain club event and such. So I think it's something that I've learned personally, and for those in the audience who are trying to grow their clubs and trying to, especially in this difficult time, really, first of all, don't have hard expectations on yourself. If you don't get 50 people, if you get 15, get 20, that's still a great number. And two, make sure you deal with the needs that your group, your club needs, given that your position in the community.
Yeah, I really like that. And it kind of reminds me of something I was thinking about, and then we were kind of talking about earlier, and that's like creating this kind of like I guess legitimacy as a club is important, and to communicate the fact that like, okay, we're not about like just degenning on NFTs and stuff like that, which is like it attracts a certain group and a good amount of attention, which I think some of it's healthy, but in the long term, like you want to communicate the fact that like, okay, we're focused on the technology side of things, we're focused on the building side of things. We're not like a investment club specifically, and that sure, like maybe that could work at certain universities, but overall, like just creating trust is super important. And I guess like maybe Eva, you might have some insight on like connecting with other protocols and people in the ecosystem to kind of like build that trust through projects that are existing and already doing great things.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you are from this side, from where am I, you always have to deal with multiple projects, multiple initiatives, and clubs from everywhere. For example, in US, clubs is a thing. They are proper organized. They are full of activities and engagement. Is very cool and it's very nice. But in other parts of the world, there is not a thing as a club. For example, in Latin America, in Asia, in some parts of Europe, or in other parts. For example, in Australia, there is a few, and there is a lot of students trying to build things and trying to have this space with friends, with colleagues, where they can talk, they can feel comfortable, and find some I don't know, some resources to grow professionally or to find a job. Well, these spaces are very hard to find, are very difficult to build. So that's why sometimes blockchain with the decentralized fundamentals and with the protocols, they are very well connected all over the world. Sometimes it's easy to find resources for these students. And my aim for the next years is to find better point of connections for these guys, for these students, that they don't have a point of connection with organizations, or they don't have a good relation with their university and want to find this place for to build this future. This is all. And blockchain will incentivize all that you are saying, find the right incentives, find the right place for everybody. I remember like James mentioned well, I am not technical and he neither, and I am here working in one of the biggest blockchain all over the world. There is place for everybody. It's just to find the right path, is to work very hard, is to not giving up, on little things. It's about like to talk with people, connect with community, ask for help, ask for job, find yourself a leader, and ask your leader if you want to do something, or be yourself the leader. And sometimes this is like what I am trying to build, being like this is student engagement lead. And well, you guys both are doing an amazing job. I really enjoy this space. Was amazing. I hope to join like many more, because this is great. And well, regarding like projects in the Algorand ecosystem, well, in the past, in our past event, Decipher, we could successfully find an internship for 20 students from Middle East, and they are all working in projects from the Algorand Foundation. For the Algorand ecosystem, Folks Finance, Wairu, AgroToken. There is another projects too, Rand Labs, for example, C3, another more, and many more. And well, this is possible in blockchain. You can find an internship, you can find scholarships, you can build your own team for a hackathon, you can compete, you can study, you can do whatever you want. It's just be yourself, and don't be afraid to join.
Yeah, I love that. I guess that's kind of like a great way to kind of wrap up this overall, chat about like building projects and working together as clubs.
This was a great session, folks. Really enjoyed it very, very much. MacKay, if I may, folks, in a few decades, you get an opportunity to do something innovative. That happened in the mid 90s to late 90s, but I think that's happening again. So we're in a unique spot in time where you can have an impact that will last decades. And so if you think of it in that perspective, I hope many of you think of that in that perspective, that you're in a moment in time that comes around very rarely. And your contribution, especially if thought out and executed, can really make a difference in this world. So please, I hope that tells you what impact you can have, and I'm confident many of you will have that impact.
Yeah, thank you, Sriram. That's awesome.
Hey guys, my name's Franny, president of VCU Blockchain in Richmond, Virginia. What up, Jake? Just want to say, keep building, keep your heads up. I don't know about y'all, but recent events have definitely affected the sentiment here, like around campus and stuff, because it's already hard enough to build up a community out of nothing, and with a lot of skepticism. So curious to hear like the sentiment on your guys' end concerning recent events in crypto and Web3, how people are addressing the situation. I know from my end, it's not really stopping us, but it's definitely gotten some, mockery from, those traditional business people, or like, just some people who have been doubting the vision all the time. But yeah, passing it off to y'all.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think like it's really good to kind of communicate to students like the long-term outlook of the space, and like kind of echoing what Sriram was just saying, like we are kind of like the builders of the next kind of generation of technology, especially when it comes to like things around Web3. So yeah, to hear from anybody else on that would be great. I think it's super important.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that. I think where we're at right now, you have to find like the right mix of doing and learning. I think if we can position ourselves at a point where we are 3, 4, 5, 6 years ahead of anyone else just starting to get into the space in the future, we can really put ourselves at an advantage. And it is tough sometimes thinking like, all right, well, I'm spending all this time reading these papers, watching these YouTube videos, learning about Web3. I would hope everyone has a little bit of skepticism in their head, like, oh, what if this all doesn't work out? But I think I've been reassured plenty of times that that there is really aspects of this that will impact our future. And if we can spend our time learning now, doing now, getting the experience now, we can position ourselves at a point where we're just far ahead of the general population that will pick this up in however X amount of years in the future. And I think that's also motivation in my head, where, we are 3, 4, however many years ahead of other people. How do we make sure that we don't lose this head start? How do we make sure? So that's a burgeoning question in my head, but love the question, Franny. I think just it's all about learning right now and seeing where the real use cases are in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's not really any downside in like continuing to learn and like really questioning, what do you believe now and what are you doing now, and like how can we improve, how can we adjust, how can we change, and really just keep that long-term view.
Totally agree. I also it's kind of reminded me, I hope recent events have also kind of drawn more attention to those that aren't in it for profit, right? And are really in it to learn, because that's really what's important at the end of the day. And I think that's really shows the true drive and passion. And like someone said earlier, we're all young and driven. So yeah, again, great discussion by BAF. Always open to hearing more about, students or just young people in general in blockchain, really. So you guys feel free to follow me. I'll follow back. I keep my tweets protected, just because Twitter is a little too public sometimes. But yeah, keep on building, and thank you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Would love to just if anybody else has anything else to say, and then we'll wrap it up. I think that we're gonna actually do this format and keep it going. So we're definitely gonna do another one. Would love to have any other feedback.
I think I want to say one thing related to what was been talked about before. Everything that happened this year, people think it's bad, especially people who are outside of the space. But you got to realize that it's really good that the bubble burst now instead of in 5 years, when we have literally the most insane market capitalizations of companies, and we are 10 times leveraged instead of being 3 times leveraged, over leveraged. It's honestly a great thing that this happened now. And instead of looking at it as a negative thing, yes, it's horrible that people lost all their money and savings, etc. But the truth is coming out, and this is going to set the tone for the new generation of startups in the crypto space. A lot more due diligence, a lot more research, potentially regulation, but that's not a bad thing. It's good that this has happened, and it's important that we use these lessons as learning points so that we don't just all go happy go lucky. I mean, just because crypto is virtual, then that doesn't mean that it's not like money. It is real money. It's just that because you don't have a physical holding of it, you forget that it has a lot of value. And I think the second thing is something that a lot of people around, at least BU's group of small people interested in blockchain, is we're coming to realize that the problem with crypto was that it was an investment asset without a product. Traditional finance, as you have a stock, and the stocks are ownership of a company, and a company has a product or a service, so you can physically see its value. But with with crypto, it's really hard to put value on it, because everything is digital, everything is virtual, and a lot of what's been created has been creating forced value in a way. And so I think that's something that a lot of people have learned about and are going to be a lot more mindful of, instead of just thinking about a 10x coin or something like that. The bubble has burst, and we're facing reality.
I just want to add one thing that I really love about being involved in Web3 is the critical thinking side of it all. I assume that's prevalent in lots of other industries. This is just mainly the first industry that I'm delving into. But trying to decipher between what's crap and what's not, what will be useful in 3 to 5, 10 years and what's not. It's really interesting watching some of these YouTube videos and papers from 3, 4, 5 years ago and seeing people's predictions from then, and just wondering they had no idea what would be relevant today still, what would be in use today. I mean, you look at the top 100, if you look at CoinMarketCap top 100 in 2017, I don't even know what percent of it is different from today, but it's a large percent. And trying to make those predictions and guess those macro kind of trends is super interesting to me, and I think that's something that I love about the space.
Yeah, 100%. That's an awesome place to wrap it up too. We're gonna do this again. So for the students here, have an awesome break. Relax, refresh, and I think we're gonna have an awesome spring semester in terms of building our clubs up and recovering from the bear market. Hopefully starting some projects up as well.